Welcome to another short video by the Schneider Electric solar team. In today's video, we're just going to do a walkthrough of the Conext Insight 2 solar monitoring platform. So in the last video we showed you how to set up a new site on Insight 2. And today we're actually going to go into the firmware update section and show you how to update the firmware on the gateway from Insight. And then we're going to show you how to go in and change a number of system settings. We want to point out that we've now switched over to a live account that's connected to a number of different sites. And this will just help us see and understand some of the capabilities of the platform in a more useful manner. So we were on the configuration menu, and we were looking at the different sites and devices, user rights, email notifications, and financial settings, sub-menu items. The next one we're going to look at is firmware. So we've selected a site, and if you go to the firmware tab, you can see a list of all the devices that are connected on the site, and you can see what version of the firmware they're running. So you can see the FGA, the part number, what version of the firmware they're currently running, the build, and whether it's the latest version or not. We have a really nice feature added into Conext Insight 2 here, and we're busy adding it for all the other products. So it currently only works in the gateway. You can select a device where there is newer firmware available. Now, as you can see here, Gateways on the site is running the latest version of the firmware. But you can select a device, and if it's not running the latest version of the firmware, you can click Upgrade at the top right here, and it will then run an update remotely of the firmware on the selected device. The next thing we want to show you is, as we mentioned, we switched to a live account with a number of different sites connected to it. So if we go back to the home screen, so it now loads up a site list of all the different sites that you have connected to your profile. You can see the site name. The site name is clickable. We'll have a look at that in a second, and it'll take you straight through to the site. You can see a number of different characteristics of the sites that you have connected. Let's start at the bottom, and then we'll go back up and work through this table. So at the bottom, you can see you've got the power gauge here, and you can see your total solar production for all your sites has been, or for all your sites lifetime-wise, is that sitting at about 38.6 megawatt hours. Grid consumption, a lot more. Load, also depicted there, and generator operation. So it just gives you a snapshot of how your portfolio of sites are doing, and where your energy is coming from and how much energy you're consuming overall. If we go back up to the table, this table was really designed for multi-site operators, and it gives you a snapshot view of how the system or all the systems that you have connected are doing. So you can very quickly see here whether the systems are online or not. So there are two of them here that are disconnected. This table does have a lot of demo data on it as well, so some of this information may not make sense when you look at it, and that's just because we have a lot of demo systems connected at the moment. So you can next look at last data refresh, so when last you received data from the site. So the next one is today's generation in kilowatt hours, today's solar production in kilowatt hours, the battery bank voltage, so if you have a battery connected on the site, what the current voltage is, state of charge, the alarms and warnings. It will show you if there are any active alarms or warnings, whether you have a generator connected or whether it's running or not. So in this case, you'll see that this first site, for example, has no generator. The third site, however, has a generator, but it's not running. You can also see the status of the grid. So you'll see that the first site, the grid is currently off. The third site and onwards from here, the grid is on and connected. Firmware status, you can see what the firmware version of the gateway on these sites would be. And you can also look at the weather, so you can see that here it's slightly overcast. With this site, there's a bit of rain at the moment, and the site over here is beautifully clear day. You can have multiple pages of systems, so if you have more sites, you basically just scroll through them. You can see what the status is on the other sites. We allow the option to download this data, so you can download it as an Excel or a CSV. And we also have the ability to switch to a map view. So next to the download option, you can click on the map view, and the map view will show you all your systems and where they're deployed around the world. So the next thing we're going to do is go back to the table view, select the site to go and look at it in a little bit more detail. So if you click on the site name, it takes you through to your power flow diagram. And here you can see the different components installed on your system. And you'll notice that some of the elements are clickable. You can also see how much solar is being produced at the moment, how much is going to your batteries and to your loads, etc. If, for example, your system was using grid energy or grid power to charge up the batteries, you would see the power flow running from the grid side and towards the batteries. If the grid were disconnected and there was no solar and everything was running off batteries, you'd see, as one would assume, you'd see the power flow running from the batteries through the inverter to the load. So if we click on one of the charge controllers, for example, you can see it will bring up a list of the different charge controllers and a count of the charge controllers at the top there. And you can click on any one of these to go to a charge controller or a device-specific page. And on this page, you can see a couple of really interesting data points. So you can see here what your daily energy, in this case solar production, looks like weekly, monthly, yearly, and lifetime. You can see a graph or a bar chart at the bottom of how much solar production has come off this charge controller in the last day. So in this case, sun came up around 6 and there was a bit of production in the morning. In the afternoon, we can assume it was slightly overcast. We can change this timeline or time span that we're looking at as well. So it's currently set up to look at just the day. We can switch to a different day of the week if we like, or we can select a month and we can say for the month of February or for the year of, we can go to 2019 as an example. Let's just go to February for now. If you select that, it will show you your solar production per day for the month of February. You can see that there are no current alarms or warnings on this charge controller. You can also get a summary here of the status of the charge controller. And if you wanted to, you could click through to change settings, and this would take you to your device settings page. And under your device settings, you can go through and see all the settings that you would be able to access on the Conext gateway as well. And for example, if you wanted to change a setting, you would adjust the setting to whatever set point you wanted, hit apply changes, and it would ask you for your gateway admin username and password. You'd need to enter these and then hit confirm, and that would then push the changes through to your device on site. Just while we're in the settings page, you can also switch between different devices here. So for example, if I wanted to, once I've made the changes on my charge controllers, go and make some changes on my XW or XW Plus inverter, you simply select it on the menu, give it a little bit of time, it will load all the settings for your XW Plus. You can see there's quite an extensive list over there. And again, same thing applies. So if I wanted to adjust some set point, I would simply adjust it, hit apply changes, and enter my gateway admin username and password, hit confirm, and those settings would be pushed through from Conext Insight 2 to the device on site. All right, going back to my performance page, which is where we were on the dashboard. The next sub-menu tab or tab that we can access here is your energy gauge and your advanced or site advanced analysis tabs. Now, before we go into those, I just want to point out that you can also switch the site that you're looking at by simply clicking on that site option there and then scrolling through the list of connected sites and selecting another site here. We're going to stay on this site for now. The energy gauge just shows you or gives you an overview of your energy totals over different time spans. Again, you can change the timeline or the time window you're looking at. You can change your site from here, and we can then export anything that you're seeing on this page into PDF, PNG, or Excel format for editing or use offline. If we go to the advanced site analysis, if we go to the advanced site analysis page, you'll see here a power mix widget, which shows you the blend between production coming from solar, energy going to the batteries, grid, generator, etc. You can see there's a solar production graph here where, remember, the site had multiple charge controllers, so each charge controller is depicted in a different color, and you can get an overview of how the different charge controllers perform throughout the day. With any of these charts, you'll notice that the titles or the device names at the bottom are interactive. So I can simply click on the device name and it will remove or hide that device's visualization on the chart. I can deselect all of them if I wanted, or just look at one in isolation. That's quite a nice feature there. You'll notice as well that in this case on the site there's an AC power usage widget, and there's nothing showing here. That's simply because the site is running off grid. So don't worry about what we would see here. If the site were grid connected, you would actually see your energy usage data for the day, and you could export it into the different formats, etc. Right, and then if you scroll down, we also have these other widgets showing you your lifetime energy from two different sources, and your environmental contribution, so the number of trees or the carbon emissions avoided. Now, just before we go on to some of the other reporting pages, there's this My Dashboard page on the main menu as well. And before we go to that, I want to point out how you get widgets added to that. You'll notice at the top right-hand corner of every widget, there's this little icon. And if you hover over it, it says Add to My Dashboard, or it highlights that it's the option to add this widget to your dashboard. So by clicking on that, it brings up this pop-up. You say okay, let's just close that. And if we go to My Dashboard, what My Dashboard creates or allows is an environment where you can see all the widgets that you would like to see more frequently for that site. So in this case, for this specific site, we've got the power flow diagram set up. We have your power mix, where you can look at your production and your consumption. We have solar production, and we have the environmental footprint and environmental contribution widgets all running. If we wanted to remove any one of them at any point, so let's say we no longer see the need for this one, we just hit delete, and it will remove it from your dashboard. Okay, so once you've removed the widget, it will no longer show up here. We still have the option to change the timeline or the time span that we're looking at. So we can go and look at 2019, for example. And it's worth mentioning here that if you switch to a view like that, your power flow is always going to be real time or fairly real time. So it will show you the status as per the last data packet that it received. But if you scroll down, you'll notice that it's updating the widgets and showing us our data for the months where there was data available in 2019. Right, if we go back to the performance page, just below the main menu, you'll notice that there's a drop down next to the site name. So if you recall, the site name option is where you can select which site you're looking at. This drop down allows you to look at a couple other pages as well. So the first one is multi-sites. Multi-sites allows you to select a list of sites. And again, please bear in mind that in this case, we're looking at a lot of demo sites. But a list of sites to compare, and it will show you, what your solar production on these sites look like relative to each other. You can look at your battery, so the energy usage from the batteries, grid consumption, and so on. You could also look at your solar generation or costs if that data is available. And again, we're dealing with a lot of different demo sites here. If that data is available, so you can compare your savings and costs between the different sites that you have connected. If you scroll down, we have environmental footprint by site. So for all the different sites that we're comparing, we can look at the number of trees planted over the time frame we're looking at, and the amount of CO2 emissions that have been avoided. That has been avoided. Okay, if we look at some of the others, the next one we'll look at is your energy source comparison. And here you can go and select different devices. You can select as many as 10, and we can select whether we want to look at PV input or output. and we can look at a different time span. And we can, for example, now compare PV output per charge controller versus the other charge controllers over or throughout the month of February. As for the inverters that are connected, or the inverter charger connected to the system, for the inverter charger connected to the system, we can again go and select the devices. In this case, we only have one inverter. We can select which parameter we would like to look at. So if we take load, for example, and we can see how much energy the load consumed on a daily basis for the month of Feb. Again, any one of these widgets can be added to my dashboard. So we simply just add it through there, or you can export the data in a number of different formats. The energy source analysis page simply takes you through to that page we were looking at earlier, where we were analyzing one of the charge controllers. At the top of the page here, we can analyze the inverter charger, or we can look at charge controller, which we've already looked at, or batteries, for example. So if we select batteries and we're looking at it for the 4th of March, and we just let it load, we can see how the voltage has been moving around. And we can switch the time frames again and look at other parameters, or switch between the different devices or connected inputs. So now that we've looked at the performance pages in a bit more detail, let's go and have a look at reporting. So if you go to reporting, you can currently do a couple things. The first one is you can select a report. So there are 3 standard reports that we have available on Insight 2. And you can select one of those. You can select the date. So if we just take 2 days again, you can switch between hours, days, months, etc. And we can select the site name. So we pick which site we want to see this report for. We run the report, and it will generate the report for us to download off of Insight 2. So this report can currently be downloaded in PNG, and by the time this video is released, there'll likely be the option to export it as a PDF as well. And this makes it really nice to download these reports for analysis offline, or simply to keep a record of how the system has been performing over time. All right, so that's the reporting. And if you go from reporting, the next menu item there is events. So if we go to the events tab, again, you can select the site. So let's see if we take that one there. And you can see the historical, so both the active and the historical events, alarms and warnings for this site. You'll see we've added a fair amount of detail. So you can see on what day the event took place, the time, the type, device, etc., etc., etc. Probably most importantly, the description, so exactly what this event was and what its current status is. Okay, so you can see all this detail about the events, and then a really nice feature we've added to Insight 2 is that you're able to download events over a user-defined time window or window of time. So for example here, if we wanted to go, let's just go to February because we're only in the beginning of March now. So if I want to go from the 3rd of February to the 29th, I can select that, hit download, and you'll see it will download my events there. So going back to the platform, let's just close that down. That's effectively all that we have on Insight 2. Thank you for joining us today. If you like what you've seen, please drop us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and keep your eyes open for more content. Also, let us know what you'd like to see in the future. We're working on a lot of different videos and wanting to build more and more content for all of you. But it's important to us to know what you're interested in so that we build the right content and share it with you at the right time. Thank you all again, and until next time, goodbye.